December 1st, 1936. A 23-year-old shipping clerk named John Sweeney became headline news across America, the first person to officially receive a Social Security number. Newspapers celebrated. Politicians promised him a secure retirement. He did all the right things and paid into that system his entire working life. But John Sweeney died of a heart attack in 1974 at age 61, mere months before he could collect a Social Security check. Think about that for a moment. The first person in the Social Security system never got to use it. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in potential lifetime benefits gone. Which is why, in today's Financial Prof episode, I'm going to show you why the conventional wisdom about waiting to claim Social Security might be costing you more than you think, and why the math that everyone tells you to follow is based on assumptions that likely don't match your reality. And if you stay with me until the end, I'm going to reveal groundbreaking new research that just came out, which may fundamentally change how you think about timing, longevity, and the value of your dollar in retirement. So you've heard it 1,000 times. Wait as long as possible to claim Social Security. For every year you delay past your full retirement age, which is 67 for most of you watching, you get an additional 8% increase in your benefit. Wait until 70 and you're getting 24% more every month for the rest of your life. Now on paper this sounds incredible, and mathematically if you live past your early 80s, you'll collect more total dollars by waiting. Most break-even calculators place the break-even age somewhere between age 78 and 82, depending on your claiming age. But here's what nobody's talking about, and I mean nobody. Not on YouTube, not on Forbes, or really anywhere else on the internet. And that is the fact that those future dollars, they're not the same as today's dollars. Not even close. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's what COLA is for, cost of living adjustment. Social Security adjusts for inflation every year, and you're right, technically. But here's the problem that's going to change everything you may think right now about how you view this decision. The cost of living adjustment is supposed to protect your purchasing power, but it's calculated using something called the CPI W, which stands for the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers. Let that sink in for just a moment. Your retirement benefits are adjusted based on the spending patterns of workers, not retirees, workers. In 2024, Social Security recipients got a 3.2% cost of living adjustment. Sounds pretty reasonable, right? Except here's what actually happened to the things retirees spend money on. Medicare Part B premiums increased by 5.9%. Home insurance, especially in states like Florida, Texas, and California, jumped by 20 to 30% or more in some markets. Homeowners insurance nationally increased by double digits. The cost of a new RV up 15 to 20% year over year. Hotel rates for that dream European vacation up 12 to 18% depending on the destination. Are you starting to see the problem? When I talk to my retiree clients, these are common expenses for many of them. But unfortunately, it gets worse, much worse. And this is the part that keeps me up at night thinking about these decisions for my clients. So let me paint a picture of what's really happening. The CPI W, that index that determines your COLA, heavily weighs things like gasoline, new vehicles for commuting, and childcare. Again, I want you to think about that for a moment. Childcare. How much are you spending on childcare in retirement? For the average grandparent I know, they're far more likely to be the childcare. Now meanwhile, that same index underweights things you're actually spending money on. Healthcare, housing costs, property taxes, and services. Now, you might be thinking, but what about the break-even analysis? What about longevity? Well, hold that thought, because what I'm about to show you will probably completely reframe how you think about this decision matrix. Here's the concept that changes everything: net present value and real purchasing power over time. So let me introduce you to a concept that might sound complex, but is actually simple. Net present value, or NPV. This is how businesses decide whether an investment is worth making. And the idea is fairly straightforward. A dollar today is worth more than a dollar tomorrow, because that dollar today could be invested and growing. Excuse me. Now for our purposes, let's assume a 7% annual rate of return. That's historically fairly conservative for a balanced portfolio, and this number is important because it helps us understand what those early Social Security dollars could actually be worth. So let's do some real math together because this is probably the most important calculation you'll see all year. If you claim at age 62, you might get $2,100 per month. If you wait until age 70, you might get $3,000 per month. The traditional advice says wait for that $3,000 paycheck. But here's what nobody tends to calculate. Between ages 62 and 70, you'll collect roughly $201,600 in Social Security benefits at the lower amount. That's real money in your pocket today, over $200,000 of it. Now, if instead of spending all that money, you used it to delay tapping your retirement accounts, letting them compound at that 7% return, by the time you're age 70, that $201,600 in received benefits has now allowed your portfolio to grow by approximately $58,000 more than it potentially would have otherwise. Suddenly, you're not just comparing $2,100 versus $3,000. You're comparing $2,100 plus portfolio growth versus $3,000. But wait, it actually gets more important. Let's factor in your personal inflation rate. Let's assume it's 5% annually, and that might be even kind of conservative when you actually properly weight healthcare, housing, and lifestyle expenses, not to mention things like long-term care or what the RMDs might do. Now, by the time you're 70, you'll need your Social Security to be $36.90 per month just to have the same purchasing power for your lifestyle that $2,100 has today. But you're only getting $3,000. You've waited 8 years, you're getting $900 more per month than you would have, but you're still losing purchasing power. And here's the kicker that really no one talks about, and this is where the conventional wisdom really starts to fall apart. Those early dollars that you receive from claiming at 62 or 64, they're not just for spending, they're for opportunity. And this is where net present value thinking starts to change everything. So here's a real example. Let's say you claim at age 62 and receive $2,100 per month. You don't actually need to spend it all because you have other income. So you let $1,000 per month reduce how much you withdraw from your IRA, let's say. Now, over 8 years, that's $96,000 that stays invested. Assuming a 7% annual return, that money potentially could grow to about $147,000 by age 70. But here's the real magic. If you had waited to claim Social Security until age 70 and withdrawn that amount from your IRA instead, you'd have $96,000 less in your account potentially. Plus, you'd have paid taxes on those withdrawals at your ordinary income rates. By claiming early and strategically using those dollars, you've created roughly $50,000 in additional wealth, wealth that can continue compounding for the rest of your retirement. Now, what if you used that early Social Security to pay for that RV or that trip to Europe while the costs are lower and your health is better? Well, let's run a few quick numbers. An RV that costs $180,000 today versus $245,000 in 8 years, that's $65,000 more. Your Social Security might be $900 higher per month after waiting, but it'll take you 6 years just to recover the price difference, and that's assuming the RV doesn't continue going up in price. The experience you have at 64 could also be worth more than the experience at 72, not just because of health, but because of time itself and the time value of money. So what if you use that flexibility to do Roth conversions at lower tax brackets? That early Social Security income might allow you to convert traditional IRA money to Roth during those years when you're not yet taking RMDs and you're in a lower bracket. Now, Roth conversions aren't for everyone, and there are a lot of considerations that go into them, so we'd love to talk to you about that if that's something you're thinking about. But over a lifetime, that strategic planning could be worth tens of thousands in potential tax savings. And this is the opportunity cost everyone ignores. The flexibility that early Social Security provides isn't just nice to have. When you run the NPV calculations properly, it could be worth more than that 8% retirement credit. But I know what you're worried about. You're thinking, what if I live to 95 or 100? Won't I regret claiming early? Well, let me address this head on with real data pulled directly from the source. Yes, it is true. If you live into your 90s and you claimed at age 62, you'll have received less total lifetime Social Security than if you'd waited until 70. I'm not going to hide from that. The break-even point is usually around 80 to 82. But here's what almost nobody knows or takes the time to research. According to Social Security Administration's own 2022 actuarial life tables, the average 62-year-old American man can expect to live to about 80.4 years old. If you're a woman, that becomes 83.6. Let me say that again. The break-even age, or waiting until age 70, starts to pay off is right around the average life expectancy for men, and just slightly before the average for women. And that means that roughly half of American men won't even reach the break-even point. They'll have waited 8 years, sacrificed their go-go years, and they'll never collect more total dollars. But there's more recent research that I want to share with you and you need to know about. You see, here's where it gets really interesting. There's been groundbreaking research recently by Dr. Derek Tharp, PhD, that completely challenges the conventional wisdom about Social Security claiming. For years, most financial planning research has told you to wait until 70. But Dr. Tharp reveals something crucial. That research is based on fatally flawed assumptions. Here's the problem. Traditional Social Security studies use what's called a 0% discount rate. That means they assume a dollar of Social Security income at 62 is worth exactly the same as a dollar at 95, which is kind of ridiculous, right? Dr. Tharp argues that the correct discount rate should reflect the opportunity cost of what you're giving up by delaying. For instance, the 7% rate of return we referenced earlier. Then you adjust that rate based on your specific situation, your health, your mortality risk, whether a market crash could devastate your portfolio while you're waiting, whether you'll actually spend that money without guaranteed income coming in. And when you do this math correctly, for many retirees, especially those with modest portfolios or health concerns, the effective discount rate is often 6 to 8% higher. And at those rates, claiming at 62 often makes more financial sense than waiting until age 70. This isn't just about behavior, it's about the actual mathematics used by thousands of other financial advisors being wrong. And even for those who do live past break even, we need to consider three critical things. First, those calculations assume your COLA matches your actual inflation. We've just spent the last quarter of an hour or so establishing that it doesn't. If your personal inflation runs 2% higher than COLA annually, very realistic if you talk to most retirees, you need to live to your mid-80s just to break even in real purchasing power terms. Second, they assume that the value of a dollar at 85 equals the value of a dollar at 65, and we know that's not true, not in terms of purchasing power or the opportunity cost of letting your dollars grow. Third, they ignore healthcare timing and life goals. Here's what I tell my clients. If claiming early means you can do that RV trip at 65 instead of 3, if it means you can take your grandkids to Disney before they're teenagers, if it means you can remodel your kitchen while you still have the energy to enjoy looking out that brand new window, these experiences have value that doesn't show up on a break-even spreadsheet. And the question isn't, will I collect more total dollars? The question is, will I have the money I need when I need it to live a life of true human flourishing in my retirement years? And that brings me to the framework that I would like you to consider using. Instead of asking, when should I claim Social Security? I want you to ask these four questions. Question number one. What are my major retirement goals in the next 5 to 10 years? And what are they likely to cost in today's dollars versus future dollars? Run the actual net present value calculation. Excel has NPV as a native function if you're a spreadsheet jockey. So if you want to travel extensively, buy an RV, relocate, what will it cost in today's dollars and what will it cost in 5 to 8 years with realistic inflation, and whether that extra Social Security will actually cover that increase? I can almost guarantee that you'll be shocked at the results. Question number two. How does early Social Security claiming change my tax strategy and how long my money lasts? This is huge. If taking Social Security at 64 means you can leave your portfolio alone during a bad bear market, or if it enables better Roth conversion strategies, run those numbers at 7% compounding growth, for instance. That flexibility might be worth more than the 8% annual increase. It might be worth $50,000 to $150,000 in additional wealth over your lifetime. Think about what that could do. And then question three, what's my personal inflation rate versus the CPI W that we had talked about earlier? Track what you actually spend money on. If your costs skewed towards healthcare, housing, and experiences rather than gasoline, rent, and childcare, your personal inflation rate is probably running 1 to 3% higher than COLA adjustments. Over to 20 or 30 years, that compounds into some serious purchasing power loss. And that finally brings us to question four. What does my family health history tell me about my realistic life expectancy? Be honest here. If most of the men in your family didn't make it past 78, banking on reaching age 90 or 95 might not be the best strategy. The Social Security Administration's own data shows that if I were 62 right now, I'd statistically live to about 80, right at break even. Again, half won't even make it that far. And truthfully, none of my grandfathers made it anywhere close to age 90, so I know that statistically speaking, my odds aren't amazing personally. The conventional wisdom treats Social Security as a simple math problem, but therein lies the subtle lie. Retirement isn't lived on a spreadsheet. It's lived in real time with real costs and real trade-offs. The time value of money isn't just about investment returns, it's about the value of time itself and the mathematical reality that a dollar today, properly deployed, can be worth more than a bigger dollar later. So let me bring this home. Remember John Sweeney from the beginning, the first person to receive a Social Security check? Well, you might not know it, but the fact is, he wasn't an anomaly. John Sweeney worked his entire adult life. He paid into the system faithfully. He was supposed to start collecting benefits at age 62. That was the promise. But he died at age 61, only a few months short. Now, the rest of the story is that luckily, his widow did receive survivor benefits until her death in 1982. But John himself, he never saw a dime of that money that he'd paid in for decades. Now, think about for a moment what would have happened if he had lived a little bit longer and Social Security had given him the choice we have today. What if at age 62 someone had told him, John, you can start collecting now or you can wait for a bigger check at age 65? He likely would have waited. That was the conventional wisdom. That was the responsible choice. And it's entirely possible that he may still have died with nothing. Here's the truth that the break-even calculators you see all over the internet and everywhere else just won't tell you. The biggest risk in retirement isn't running out of money, it's running out of time. Time when you're healthy, time when you're energetic, time when your dreams are still achievable, and, frankly, when you can make strategic financial decisions that compound in your favor. Now, should everyone claim Social Security early? No, absolutely not. If you're still working, if you have other income sources, if you don't need the money and you're in excellent health with strong longevity in your family, waiting might make perfect sense. But if you're making the decision based on conventional wisdom that ignores your personal inflation rate, your lifestyle goals, or the net present value of money, or the opportunity cost of portfolio growth, and the mathematical reality that half of all men won't outlive the break-even point, well, you need to run those numbers again. And if you've never run them, now's the time. Actually take that intentional step of figuring out where your numbers stand. Because that cost of living adjustment that everyone promises is going to protect you, it's protecting someone else's retirement, not yours. And that bigger check that everyone says you should wait for, well, think back to John Sweeney. He waited his entire life and he never got it. Don't let the first man in the Social Security system teach you a lesson the hard way. And if you're tired of conventional advice, I'm offering viewers of this video a free 5-minute retirement plan video using your actual savings, income, and Social Security. Free. Just click the link below for your 5-minute personalized retirement plan, and I will send it right to your inbox. Now, I'm also going to include links to the Social Security Administration's life expectancy resources here in the description, so you can see real data about your own situation. And if you found this valuable, do me a favor. Share this with someone who's facing this decision of when to claim Social Security, because the financial industry doesn't want you thinking this way. They want you following the conventional wisdom. But you deserve better. Your family deserves better. You deserve to make this decision with all the facts, including the ones they're not telling you. So with that, I look forward to seeing you in the next one, and in the meantime, I'll see you out there.